How are you guys doing? Good. So we'll have plenty of opportunity to test that greatness later and see how you're really doing, because that's part of Le Mun Hwa's style. I'm honored to be introducing Le Mun Hwa, to College of Alameda. He's a master facilitator. He's a mentor to many, including myself. His mindfulness facilitation techniques provide the framework for us to have potentially difficult conversations regarding racism and sexism and move the conversations further. A lot of times, right, people get dismissed, people play devil's advocate, and people are not believed, and then the conversation stops. So his techniques allow the conversation to move further. He really prizes the art of active listening by reflecting and mirroring the person's key words, their tone, and their body language. So the person feels fully heard, validated, and understood. And who doesn't want that, right? We go most of our lives wanting those things, and definitely around racism and sexism as well. His techniques help build trust in relationships, especially when trust has been lost or broken between different ethnic groups, between men and women, as well as between heterosexuals and those of the LGBTQ community. He encourages us to become increasingly aware of what is said and not said. That's just as important, what is not said. And in just a moment before being with Mun Hwa, I heard him say, being silent is also part of racism. Along with what is said and not said, who's in the room, as well as who's not in the room. So take a moment to look around. Notice who's here and who's not here. Something what seems simple like that is important and will become so in his workshop. All of this is part of what makes a person build more trust to tell their personal story. Through hearing people's stories, stereotypes and preconceived notions fade away, and our empathy increases, because all of a sudden we see ourselves in their shoes. The questions Mun Hwa asks are you willing to hear the full truth? And what gets in your way of doing so? Mun Hwa's model is healing work. I've gone through his program and a lot of the past comes up. It's incredibly healing work. It increases our awareness of racism and sexism impact on each of our lives so that we may unlearn racism and unlearn sexism on a personal level and then act on it in our own way with our families, our communities, and our institutions. So with that, I want to give Mun Hwa a warm welcome.
There's a microphone without the cord. Could I have that one? The cordless mic? Buddhists always work on having less attachments, so great. How many of you are here today because you would like to have a more diverse world in which everyone is valued for being different and unique? Raise your hand. No? How many of you are here today because you feel like our country's being pulled apart because we're different? Good. So, you might be here today because you'd like to see a better world, okay? So, I'd like to ask you, how many of you came in here today and sat next to somebody you knew? So how's that better world going to happen? And then maybe to make sure that no one sits too much closer, then you might have put something on that chair. So then they don't get one more seat over. You know, the President of the United States, President Clinton, former president, had a national conversation on race. But guess what? Not one single person talked to each other. And you could sit here today and make an assumption that you're going to watch a film, maybe be transformed. But that will never bring the two of you together. Do you know that? You'll still be going like this. Oh my God, I think that's the president over there. Okay? She's looking at you going, I wonder what she's like, wonder who she is. Okay? And I think that today when Sarah was talking about noticing who's not here, those people who are white and European American, please stand. I noticed you were getting ready to stand. Why don't you get and stand? Yeah, I know. There are other people here. So why don't you start and help them out? Anybody else who's white, please stand. Now, remain standing. Wow, that was fast, isn't it? Oh, well, actually, come here. Come over here. Why don't you come on up? I thought this looks cool. Hey, come on a little closer. I want you to turn and face the audience. Now I want you to take a good look. That wasn't easy for them to do this, was it? To stand. How many of you picked up they were a little bit nervous? How many of you picked that up? How many of you are glad that I didn't have you come up? Yeah, I could tell that, right? Okay. The reason why I'm having them stand up here today is that so oftentimes I was looking at today, here I am going to show a film on diversity here at Alameda College, and only 2 white folks show up. How many of you noticed that? Raise your hand. That only 2 white folks showed up. Yeah. Did you notice that? You probably noticed it even more so when I said, have the white people stand up, huh? So I want to ask you, what is your name?
Max.
Hi, Max. And your name is? Veronica. So Max, why did you come today?
Because Vanson wanted us to attend this.
So if that had not happened, would you have come?
I'll be honest, probably not.
First of all, I want to appreciate his honesty. Can you hear that? And tell me why you wouldn't have come.
Because I didn't know about it.
And you know what this workshop is on? This film?
Nope.
It's on racism.
Now I know.
Now you know. If you knew it was on racism, would you have come?
Maybe.
Maybe. What would have made you come?
So many questions.
I'm a therapist. I'm allowed to do this.
I'm not sure.
Veronica, why don't you come over here? So he doesn't feel all by himself. So Veronica, why did you come today?
Because I wanted to get to know you and your concept of workshops.
My whole concept of workshops. So you're here to study me? Aha. So I want to ask you, Veronica, how many of you picked up her accent? What a beautiful accent. What country are you from?
Germany.
Germany. Okay. So were you born? You weren't born here then?
No.
Uh-huh. How long have you been here?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Wow.
I'm just traveling, visiting. I'm just traveling, visiting some friends in the Bay Area.
Okay. And so She's German. What is your ethnicity?
English, Irish, German, and Peruvian.
Whoa, you've got quite a bit in you, huh? And I want to ask you a question, because I'm not meaning just to put you on the spot, but what the heck. Have you ever had anybody come up to you and go like this? What was your first name? Max, oh my God, you speak such, oh, not yet, not yet. Yeah, not yet. You can stop. Okay, Max, have you ever had anybody go like this? Oh my God, you speak such good English. How many of you have ever had people walk up to you and say, oh my God, you speak such good English? How many of you were born in this country? Now, why do you think that they got asked that, Max?
I'm not sure.
Would you like to know?
Yeah.
Why do you think that people assume that you don't speak English? Are they surprised? Anybody?
Here's one over here.
Yes.
Because you were different, so they assume that because you are not a common race that you were born in another area, which means you by default spoke a first language.
Yeah. Joe Biden even said to the President of the United States, Barack Obama, my God, you speak such good English and you sound so educated. Interesting how you've never been asked that, huh? So I want you to think about, what did you notice about all the people who raised their hands? That they weren't white. So this is your first inkling today to discover, my gosh, I have never been asked this, but you have. And today I'd like you to think about why you think that might be, huh? And by the way, I think you said something about Irish. Did you have some Irish in you? Were you aware that as we're in election time, that 15 presidents of the United States are Scottish-Irish?
No, I didn't.
You know that. How many of you knew that? Didn't know that? You knew that. You're from Massachusetts, and who's the one who made up the list? Senator Edward Kennedy made up that list. And guess what else? How many German presidents did we have? What are they teaching you here at Alameda College? Did you know that 3 presidents of the United States are German? I want you to think about what was the fear of their telling the people in the United States that they were German. Now, how many of you were aware of that we have a black president? Raise your hand. How many of you were surprised that we had a black president? That he got elected? Oh, even she was. How many of you were surprised that it was the 6th black president of the United States? Raise your hand if you did not know there were 5 other black presidents of the United States. How many of you would like to know who those other 5 black presidents are? Well, you should buy my book over here. And the question becomes, Max, as we talk about this is, if they had shared their ethnicity, that they were black, would they have been elected? And that today, when you come here today, Max, is I want you to come from that place of curiosity, okay? And even though you may not have come on your own, but had to, that I really appreciate your coming up here, okay? Thank you, too. Okay? So, everybody, if you'll stand. So that Max isn't the only one. And what I'd like you to do is everybody on this side, take a look at all the people over here. And by the way, all the people who are standing back here, are you going to be in the film today? Watch the film? So come on down. Come on down. And Max, don't go away yet. Would love to have you. Oh, you have to work. Oh, I just got to know you. Okay. Thanks for letting me know that. Okay, now, I know that you came in here today hoping you'd just see a film. God, I wish it was that simple. And by the way, I want to share something with you before we get started. Your generation is the most spiritual, most religious and spiritual generation of all generations. You are constantly praying. My son prays 3 times during dinner. So So if you happen to have your Quran or your Bible looking like this, please turn it off and put it away. Don't worry, the world will go on without this. All right? So turn it off. And what I would like you to do is this. I'd like you to pair up with somebody in this room that you don't know. And don't worry, we've closed all the doors now. You're going to pair up with someone you don't know and who's different than you. Can you hear that? Now, don't say anything yet. Shh. Now, when you pair up with this person, you are not going to say anything. Just pair up with them. Now, I know you can fake me out. You can go like this. This guy's already getting tired already. You can fake me out and go like this. Oh, man, he won't know. Okay? I've got a photographic mind, and I'm going to come after you. Okay? I want you to choose someone who's different. Because if you want a better world, you are never going to be able to do it sitting where you are. Can you hear that? Otherwise, you're just sitting in your little world. You're going to have to come out of it. And what I want Donald Trump to do is to go to a mosque. I want Rubio to go see what an immigrant family has to go through in this country to stay alive. I would like Ted Cruz to see what it's like to be poor in this country and not have health care. Because I've been joking for years and I really meant it. The Democrats have Obamacare and the Republicans have I don't care. And I'm still waiting for them to care about something other than themselves. And we will have to get to know each other to find that out, won't we? So what I'd like you to do is choose either side, pair up with someone you don't know and who's different than you, come out of your rows, and pick somebody. Do not pick anybody that you know. All right, turn your chairs and face your partner. All right. Now, this is what I'd like you to do. In my newest film, which you're going to see, the students talk about walking into a classroom like this. Everybody's in a group, and they're noticing everybody's in a group, and they're walking like this. Okay? People are staring at people. You ever walk into a room, people stare at you? And sometimes that look isn't like, hey, welcome. It's kind of like, what are you doing here? Raise your hand if you know exactly what I'm talking about. That look, huh? Okay. Now, I can tell already some of you are looking kind of uncomfortable sitting next to this person, okay? But this is what we should have done in our classrooms a long time ago, right? So this is what I'm going to have you do. Tell your partner if you're too close or too far away. He looks a little far away, doesn't he? Bring him up a little closer. All right. This is what you're going to do. I would like you, because I think we check people out. How many of you have been checking out what I've been wearing today? Raise your hand. Wondering, what the hell is that, right? Yeah, some people like it. How many people like what I'm wearing today? How many people are looking at me going, hey, that looks a little strange? Be honest. Okay, I'm coming after you and you. Okay, there we go. And you. All right. Now, the reason why I'm wearing this, actually it's the first time today, is because I strongly believe that we love it that it might be Chinese New Year, okay? And I might wear this to Chinese New Year, but never on Monday morning when I go back to work, huh? Oh, come on, right? And I can guarantee you that each of your graduate advisors who advise you to go on to graduate school or on to college will probably tell you if you're going to go to a job interview, you better not be wearing that, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. She's going to wear it because she wants to be herself, right? But I want you to think about that. What do they mostly tell you to wear? A suit and a tie. Have your resume written exactly the way they want. And not in there, probably more than likely you will not write anything on your resume about you as a cultural person. Think about that. Or when I was at the United States Pentagon wearing this, and I asked the audience when I was standing next to a white man who had a suit on, what they said was, he looks professional and you don't. And I said, I can guarantee you this costs way more than his suit. And I can guarantee you that he could wear that suit in the United Nations, and I could wear this, and the people would say I'm beautiful, and he would be boring. But what I want you to think about today as I'm standing here is, aren't you even curious what this means to me? Don't you even want to know what the name of this is? Don't you even want to know what this is that I'm wearing? What do you got hanging on yours? And people even want to know what that is, huh? Like he could have it hanging here for all the years you're at this college and no one even asked him once what that means to you, huh? What is that?
Map of my country. Map of my country.
It's the map of your country.
Yeah.
And what is that country?
I'm from Nigeria, but this is Africa.
It's important to you, isn't it? And how many teachers at this school have asked you, hey, tell me about that?
None.
Did you hear what he just said? None. And by the way, what does this mean to me? This means Om. And a man from India walked up to me and goes, do you know what that means? And I said, Om. And he said, what is that? What's the definition of Om? Because he was pissed I was wearing it. And you know what I looked at him and I said? I could never put it into words. And you know what he did? He went like this. So you do know. Isn't that beautiful? Because in this country you want to define everything, huh? But there's some things that mean something from here. How many of you know what I'm talking about? It comes from here, the spirit of inside of you. And so today, what I want you to do in this person in front of you is, instead of just staring at people from far away or even looking at me and going, what is he wearing? Is I want you to check your partner out, okay? I want you to take a look at your partner's shoes. Take a look at their pants. Take a look at this guy's cool t-shirt. Take a good look at it. Take a look at his hair. Take a look at your hair. Ties, necklaces. Take a good look. Look at this woman's earrings. What she's trying to tell you is, don't mess with me. Okay, no, she's got some beautiful skull here, which means something to you, right? What does it mean? Anyway, you're going to tell your partner this in a few moments, okay? So you're going to look at your partner, and you're going to ask them, tell me about that. Tell me about this beautiful scarf, because you and I talked about it, huh? It was beautiful, the first thing I said to her. And so you sit in classes and you kind of look at people like this. But you're wondering about them, aren't you? And so here's your chance. Ask them about what it looks like. And this guy's gone, oh, no, man, this is too personal. No, look at me like that, okay? But I want you to take that time to do it because it'll tell you something about the person, okay? And on the way, you're going to introduce yourself, your name, your ethnicity, and tell people what your name means, okay? Name, ethnicity, what it means, and something about your wearing they're going to ask you about. Tell me about that. Ready, begin. How many of you liked getting to meet this person? You better say that, huh? So I want you to think about today that you could have gone through this entire time being here and never meet this person, unless I said to go over and meet him. I can guarantee you at Ferguson, you can watch those cops walking down the street and everybody staring at each other. The residents and the blacks looking at each other. And guess what? I was born in Oakland. I was born in Oakland at a time when white people lived in the flatlands of Oakland. Rich white folks lived in the flatlands of Oakland. And they're coming back because we made it nice. No, I'm just kidding. But also I remember in Fruitvale Avenue, Foothill and Fruitvale Avenue, that the white realtors went around and said, better sell your home because the blacks are coming in and your house values are going down. Now your generation doesn't know that. In less than 1 or 2 years, white flight hit up the hills. And I remember I was the student body president of Oakland High. Man, I loved it because we saw blacks and whites and Latinos and Asians there. And now when I went to Oakland High, boy, I'd be lucky if I see a blonde head once in a while. And all I can say is, what a shame. What a shame they got so scared. And I believe that today, we're still scared to have this. When I look at this audience today, I am saddened. I didn't know that Alameda College only had one white male. And how that must feel sometimes. And maybe a sprinkling of some other 2 or 3 white folks. But where is the interest? And people notice who's missing. And I want you to think about that today as we start this workshop today is that what's it like to get to meet somebody? And maybe even more importantly, I want to ask you is what's hard? What's good talking about racism and what's hard about it? What would you say? What's good talking about racism?
The conversation itself is good to have.
The conversation itself might be good to have. I'm looking at you, you've got great eyes. What's hard talking about racism?
Just to know that certain people don't get it, like they can't empathize because they've never gone through something, but it's still when they see it, they still don't get it.
So what she did was what we call code talking. She said some people. How many of you heard that? How many of you use that? Yeah. So she's looking at me like, oh, don't make me say it. Okay? When you said some people don't get it, who you were talking about?
I'm actually talking about not just white people, but everybody, like black people too sometimes, Asian, Hispanics, like a lot of people who you would think would have had the same things, they don't, and they don't even get it when they see it happening in their community a lot.
What does that do to you when people don't get it?
Oh, I'm very upset. I just don't understand, and it's like there's no connection there.
Anybody else? What's hard talking about racism? What's hard about it?
It's an overdrawn conversation. We know where we stand as people sometimes, and we know that other people don't stand at that same level, so it makes it a conversation that doesn't need to happen anymore. If you can't understand, then it doesn't need to be spoken on with you anymore.
What's your name again?
No.
Now, how have you picked up the tiredness in Janelle's voice? Got it? Pick that up, huh? Yeah. Did you pick that up too? What's hard talking about racism?
I think you don't want to hurt somebody by talking about it.
How many of you would agree that you don't want to talk about racism because it might hurt somebody? Raise your hand. Well, everybody would like to propose that we've had 500 years of don't ask, don't tell. The chances are really good. Okay? Now, how many of you are in a relationship with somebody? And how many of you have ever walked up to the person you wanted a relationship but started off like this? Now, hey, you're beautiful, I want to have a relationship with you, but we cannot argue, we can have no conflict. How many of you ever had would you enter into a relationship like that? That's not real, huh? So what is it about diversity that if we're going to get into conflict, you want to run for the hills? You are going to get hurt. But like all good relationships, you're going to have to do what? You're going to have to do what?
Be honest.
You're going to have to talk about it, right? You're going to have to look at yourself. You have to be honest with each other. I think we've been postponing this conversation for 500 years. And how many of you think it's really horrible or hard today in terms of racism in this country? It's really gotten worse. I don't think so. I think it's gotten worse. It's gotten more public because we have a black president that's gotten out in the open. But isn't it interesting? Not one single question in the entire Republican presidential debate is about racism. Not one single one that gets brought up in the Democratic presidential debate is about racism. Not one single question do we ask Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. We have not yet once asked them, what is your European heritage? Yet Ted Cruz's comes up. Ben Carson's right there. We won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. What's the first thing I asked you today to do is, what's your ethnicity, huh? Every day I've had to wear mine. And what's hard talking about racism before you take your great drink?
The emotions that come up behind it. So, for me, talking about race brings up a lot of anger. And I don't want to show that anger I don't want to push that anger on anyone else that doesn't deserve it. So that's for me.
I would like to propose, your name is?
Tanasha.
Take a good look at Tanasha. How many think she looks beautiful just the way she is? Okay? Look at that incredible smile. Guess what? You would never have known she was angry unless I walked up to her today, huh? And what I'd like to propose to you as a therapist is, and we're both as counselors, is that if she holds that anger in, it's going to hurt her. And she says, I don't want to just explode it to someplace else. So the only way to do that is what? Talk about it. And I do not believe that anger is a primary emotion. I think hurt is. When hurt is unacknowledged and invalidated, it becomes anger. See how she's telling you that? And do you want to know the hurt? And not just hurt as a woman, but as a woman of color. And I think that's why she's here today. I think a lot of you are here today because you're coming here with a prayer. A prayer is this going to be the day there's going to be a breakthrough? Is this the day we're finally going to tell the truth? And by the way, the photographer who was just here, he's right there, he goes, it's about time we have this conversation. I think he's here looking at, wow, are we going to say it out loud? Wow, are we going to say, when you look at me going, what is that? Or maybe take a good look at the photographer. Look at that cool hat he's got on. Look at that beautiful pink shirt and tie. All right? And what he and I talked about is the looks that we both get. And sometimes that look is, what are you doing here? And then a judgment. And so today it sits in our country in the year 2016. We may have won the Civil War, but we didn't necessarily win the hearts or the minds of people. And that's why we're still sitting here today. How many of you today would like to stay right in there, even if your partner hurts you, even if you say something that hurts, that you're willing to stay in the room? Raise your hand. How many of you are a little scared what you might hear after you see this film? Because it could get very emotional after you see this film. I would like to challenge you to stay in the room. And by the way, you could still be in the room and be gone, huh? You know what I'm talking about? You're in the room, but you're really gone. And so I would like you to stay in the room. And for those of you that are just kind of walking around, come on down here and meet us. Because I know you could be a little bit further away, but these are great seats to sit here, okay? Now, try not to leave this person you're talking to. The film lasts for an hour and a half. This is one of the most difficult films I've ever shown. In this film, you will see students that are just like you telling the truth. For over 30 years, I have been doing films on racism and sexism. And this is my last film. After 30 years of making over close to 7 films, something happened in this film that changed the course of my life. This gentleman who's right here looks very much like the star in my film. Incredible, beautiful, smart. His name was Mark. He just confronted the white students and really went for it. No holds barred. There's no script in any of my films. And some people say, my God, they've been waiting for someone to tell the truth of what's really going on in this country. And then at Grand Lake Theater, how many of you know where Grand Lake Theater is? That's where I did my premiere. Only one day we did it there. That was just, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. And Mark was there, the star of the film. Incredible. He was going to speak to 1,000 black students in Pittsburgh because they had seen the film. And then one of the stars said, we're driving up to Chico. And he said, hey, I'll give you a ride. And Mark drove him up to Chico. And then that night, his mother called me and said, where's Mark? And I said, he left 6 hours ago. And then we called his friend who he drove him up, and he said, he dropped me off. I don't know where he is. And for 2 days, nobody could find Mark. And then, slowly, the word got out. He had been walking in the middle of Chico in downtown with his white girlfriend. What I didn't know was that the Ku Klux Klan had a chapter there. And 1 day later, Mark was found burned alive in his trunk. He was the third black person burned alive in his trunk, and the police saw no connection. And I was so devastated and traumatized by his death that I decided to not do films anymore, but to do a national conversation on race. And the first place I'm going to is Ferguson. I'm going to have them do what you just did, is pair it with someone they don't know and who's different. No uniforms. He died way too young. And when you see him in this film today, you're going to see him really go at and tell the truth. And what I want you to look at is the white student in the film says, I want to be your friend. He looks at the black student and says, I want to be your friend. And the black student looks at him and says, I don't know if you know what you're talking about. I don't know if you're ready to hear the full truth. And the white student says, give it to me. I really want to know the truth. And for the rest of the film, from that point on, I have a camera on him. And I want you to watch him very carefully as he listens to the truth. At one point, an African-American student is going to say this: after all that I've seen in the shootings in America, sometimes I want to kill white people. And you might go, oh my God, how horrible. How many of you have ever wanted to kill somebody because you were so angry? How many of you think it's far better to talk about it than pick up a gun? And so today, what I'd like you to think about is to ask that student, tell me more. Tell me more what you've gone through. Rather than just to go, how horrible, but to find out why. How many of you think it's been horrible the way we've treated the American Indians in this country? And then many times people say, how come they don't say anything to you after all that we've done to them? And so today when we begin, I had you pair up with somebody because that conversation will never begin if you just watch a film and get ready just to leave today. I know that Mark told the truth. I want you to see him on film. You will never see him again. But you will see him in this room somewhere. You will see his spirit, his voice. When I was listening to you talk just now, I felt like I could hear him because you were telling the truth, weren't you? And I want you not to think that your anger is not justified. But I think you came here today because you're longing for one day that people could believe you and do something about it. I think you're here today because you'd like a better world for your kids. Yeah. Take a good look at her. It sits there. And she is not the only one. Sometimes it just makes you want to cry.
That's all I ever say. That's all anybody ever hears me say. Is that I'm here for my kids. So that I can get better way.
How many of you believe, boy, what courage it takes and love it takes for her to keep going on, even coming here today for her kids? How many of you, in listening to her, know exactly what she's talking about? Because that's also why you keep going, is that you like to make a better world for your kids too. So today is not a casual film. Can you hear that, everyone? It's people's lives, isn't it? So I would like you to take it seriously as we show this film. This film is called If These Halls Could Talk. If the halls at Alameda College could talk, what would they say about racism here on this campus? Raise your hand if you believe that racism is alive and well at Alameda College. Raise your hand if you believe that racism is alive and well in Oakland. Now the question is, what are we going to do about it, huh? What are we going to do about it?
So here's a study. Okay, these were honeymooners.